my name's Sarah. Welcome back to my sewing room. I'm a fabric addict and I love sewing and creating and upcycling. Today's project, we have this lovely crochet look stretch fabric. I got this from Funky Fabrics. They gifted it to me to make something amazing to go with the bikini that I made in the last video. So let me tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to make a beach cover up. Now, I always imagined myself either on a cruise or in Saint-Tropez, and I quite fancied with this fabric a lovely sort of Missoni style floaty beach cover up, but practically I wouldn't wear it very much. So I've decided I'm going to actually make a shorts and shirt. If you follow me on Instagram, you'd have seen my recent crochet in the bright colours, in the red and the yellow and lots of different colours, stripes. That is a t-shirt and shorts, and I tend to wear that a lot more. It suits my lifestyle, and I'm all about sewing for my lifestyle and not for my fantasy life. So I've decided I'm going to make this Simplicity blouse, which I've made before, which is, I made it in this lovely crab fabric last time, but I made it too big last time because I think I made the large, which is a 16 to 18, and I actually need to make probably a small to medium because this one is enormous, and I did actually cut this down very slightly after I'd made it as well, so I need to make that very slightly smaller. So that's the plan for the blouse. And the shorts, again, I'm just going to use the pattern that I used for my other crochet Co-ord, which was the Tiana's Closet. It's a shorts and t-shirt pattern. It's actually in her Etsy shop. I actually bought this pattern. It's not one of her free ones, although if you go to the website there are loads and loads of free patterns on there as well. It's an amazing treasure trove of patterns. But the shorts and t-shirt is just basically, I haven't got a picture actually, it's just elasticated shorts, which I'm going to wear underneath the shirt. I thought a shirt would be more practical because I can actually wear it open, and I can wear it open over a bikini, and it looks like a beach cover up, but it is actually part of a Co-ord. So that's a plan. So let's get started. So I just wanted to give you a little close up of the fabric. As you can see, it's got see-through bits because it's like a crochet, faux crochet, so it's quite sheer, but also it's a good cover up, and the colours are absolutely stunning, and it stretches that way and it stretches that way, so it's going to be really comfortable and lovely to wear. Well, this is a bit of a weird one. I don't know what direction to make this fabric up in. I was looking at the fabric and I folded it in half along the selvages, and I don't know whether to make it up in that direction, this is the direction I thought of making it, with the stripes going across, but now I'm thinking the actual direction of the fabric I think is that way, so I don't know whether to make it that way or that way, or maybe I should do a chevron effect in the front. What do you reckon? So I've decided how I'm going to have the stripes. I'm going to have them going down on the shirt, across on the sleeve, and then across on the pants, the shorts, and then across on the shorts, so there's a bit of interest and it's not all going in one direction. So I'm going to start by pinning on the pattern for the shirt. I think what I may do as well is actually take the shoulder in slightly so that you've got more of an armhole rather than it's straight, because I don't like it quite so hanging over my shoulder. I think hanging over the shoulder can actually give it a tendency to look a bit like a little girl wearing her dad's shirt. So that's the back and one of the sleeves. I'm going to pin it all on so that I make sure I can actually get the co-ord out of the fabric. I'm using pattern weights just to secure the fabric in place because it's stretched and I don't want it to go all out of shape. And look where that notch is on the back to make sure that the stripes are going to be similar. That's the shirt pinned on. Now I need to pin the shorts on. So the side panels, I'm going to have the stripes going down, and then the main body of the shorts, I'm going to have the stripes going across. So there's going to be a bit of interest in the direction of the stripes on the top and the bottom. To try and make things easier, I thought I'd overlock the edges all around every single piece before I started. So I've made a massive error of judgment here, and overlocking the edges has made the edges go all wavy. I don't know if you can see that. I've looked at the fabric and it's not going to fray, so there's no need to actually overlock the edges. So I'm actually just going to sew it straight together on the sewing machine. So I'm going to start just by sewing the pocket bags on the sides, and then sewing the sides together. I'm just going to overstitch the pocket bag to the seam allowance just to pull the pocket inside the pocket so it doesn't stick out. So that now looks nice and neat, and the pocket's on the inside. As you can see, I've put the pattern, which is slightly beigey colour, on the outside with the white on the inside, because this is going to show through the pocket and I want it to be as neutral as possible. I tried it with white, but the white was way too bright through the fabric, but this is actually really quite delicate and almost sort of fleshy coloured, but a little bit lighter. It's actually really difficult to tell the right side to the wrong side of this fabric, so I'm having to be very, very careful and sew it as I place it to make sure that I do get the right sides together and I don't end up with two the same. So I started by assembling the pockets. I'm just doing the overstitching here on the pocket bag to make sure it goes into the pocket, and then actually constructing the pocket. I then sew the short sides and front and back all together, and then here I am just zigzagging just around the hem just to make sure that it remains stretchy. Right, so I'm just pinning the waistband on now, but I just want to talk you through a complete mess up by me on this project, and I just want to sort of give a word of warning to you if you're sewing this type of fabric that is quite a random pattern, doesn't really have a direction you think. I actually folded it in half the wrong way. I didn't fold along the grain line, I folded basically the cut edge to the cut edge, so I ended up with some of my pattern going one way and some of my pattern being upside down. So it did notice because the pattern is not as random as I thought. So what happened, I had one leg on the front up one way, and then the other side was up the other way like that. And I had the same on the back. So what I had to do was recut both the back pieces, and then I managed to cut another front out of the existing back piece. So I've managed to put it right. It's not right on the side, so as you can see, I've ended up with it mirrored. And I'm going to have the same on the shirt as well, which in fairness is probably going to look quite cool on the shirt because it will be down the front where the buttons are. But yeah, it's an easy mistake to do. I did it because I wasn't concentrating. But I'm now going to just get the waistband pinned on, get some elastic in the waist, and then the shorts are going to be finished. Something I found really hard as well is sewing a fabric that has probably as many holes as it does fabric. As you can see, it is quite see-through, and getting the machine to feed it properly and sew properly has been a challenge for me, I will say. And I had admiration for anyone who sews lace a lot, because it's really hard. So I finished the shorts, and it's the Rosalba shorts by Tiana's Closet. Really easy sew, I really like it. They've got the little side panels in there and pockets, which is fabulous. Elasticated waist, and I found the perfect label because it was a nightmare to sew. The advice I'd give anyone sewing this fabric is make sure you pick a really simple pattern. I'd maybe go for a tube dress or a beach caftan. I think having so many seams and so much going on and pockets and everything else, I think for the type of fabric it is, because it's so stretchy both directions, and it's just really complicated because there's so much negative space in it. It's not an easy sew. You need to do it really carefully and really slowly, but once it's done, it's done. Now I just need to get to grips with the shirt, which is going to be a very interesting sew because obviously it has a collar and a collar stand. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to negotiate that yet. Stay tuned. So I started off sewing the main sections of the shirt together, so the back and the front, and also sewing the sleeves on. Once I'd done all the main sections, I actually overlocked all the edges as well, and then I set about attempting the collar. So I'm onto the collar, and I've decided I'm not going to interface it. I'm just going to play with the see-through holy bits of it. So I just put the two collar pieces right sides together, and I'm just going to sew round very, very carefully, and then turn the collar in the right way, and then sew it to the collar stand. So I've just done the collar and I've top stitched it, and I'm actually quite loving how that looks with the holes in, so I'm glad I didn't interface that. The tricky bit's now going to be actually putting the collar stand onto this, because I'm not going to interface the collar stand either, so that it has a lot of negative space and it sort of gives it a bit of a lightness to the whole collar and the construction. So I've got to carefully pin this on now, just to make sure I don't stretch it or anything. So once I pinned the collar stand to the collar, I carefully stitched around and then attached the whole collar to the neckline of the blouse. Then I hemmed the blouse, and I didn't want to use buttons, so I was using these plastic cam snaps. I had some really lovely sort of bronzy colour ones, so I basically attached them all the way down the front. This really finished the blouse off nicely and made it really easy to take on and off because it was poppers rather than buttons. And plus I didn't have the faff of doing buttonholes on this fabric, which would have been an absolute nightmare. And I think it's much easier to just put some poppers down through the front, because as you can see, they go really nicely.